Folks, it's my sad duty to report an update on that farm attack near Brits, in which an elderly couple, who are the mother and stepfather of a dear friend of mine, were assaulted with an antique iron and beaten savagely at 2 a.m. in the morning in a planned, coordinated domestic terrorist assault on white South Africans intended to frighten them off their property in a complicit cover-up by the government of South Africa. As I previously reported, this crime was reported as a house robbery, despite the fact that the couple was savagely beaten with an iron and clear trespassing, aggravated assault, attempted murder. And none of those charges were on the charge sheet, simply a report of a house robbery. This is complicit behavior in law enforcement in covering up these actions and pretending that these attacks aren't happening and the white South Africans are not targeted. The gentleman has died of the grievous wounds he suffered. Their dogs were poisoned a few days before the attack, so they had no advance warning. Then the tires were stolen from their vehicle, their buckies, so they couldn't escape and seek help. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, these cowards, 5 armed Setswana-speaking black racist thugs, broke into their home, tied the elderly couple up. He was wheelchair bound because of a recent hip operation, and then savagely beat them. And now a few days later, sadly, he's passed away from the torture and murder that took place. A Back a Buddy campaign to raise money for the medical care is still in effect, and those who want to help can do it. But the world must know what's been going on in South Africa for over 3 decades, and has picked up pace here since February. Every day I get stories from people which I can't verify. One, a lady sent me asking me an email, don't even know how she got my email, asking me to approve her for the refugee program. Folks, I don't work for the U.S. government. I can't approve anybody for any refugee program. Simply an independent journalist reporting and political analyst who is analyzing the events. Sent me photographs of her son, who is, she claims, whipped with sambok. He clearly was whipped with a sambok, with marks all over his back. He's partially deaf. This is the 4th time black EFF thugs, according to her, have assaulted him. I can't prove the veracity of that report. I'm also getting other things from people all the time, every day, telling me about how they're beaten. A lady in my chat yesterday talked about her 14-year-old nephew was standing in the median, and a driver went by, turned around, and come back to run him over because he was white, and the black driver drove away. No case filed by the police. I can't speak to the veracity of those reports, but I can tell you about the farm attack, the intentional domestic terrorist attack on white South Africans on a farm in Brits, which has now led to the painful and horrific death of the gentleman. A wheelchair-bound man tied up by 5 armed thugs and beaten to within inches of his life, and then eventually dies from this grievous attack. What kind of cowards are these? They better hope that South Africans don't stand up and start taking action against this. You know, in the townships, when accused rapists are identified, savagely hunted down by vigilantes and murdered with cinder blocks. Seen this in the Cape Flats time and time again. This is not how the law should be done. But the law is not being applied to protect minorities in South Africa. And the lies coming from South African politicians that this is just ordinary crime. It's not ordinary crime. It's never been ordinary crime. And, well, blacks are affected more than anyone else. Black South Africans numerically are victims of more crime than anyone else because they're 80% of the population. And virtually all the crimes are committed by black thugs. That's not a racist statement. It's a statement of fact. Just like in America, most crimes are committed by white people because we're 75% of the population. But a disproportionate amount of crimes in this country are committed by black Americans, who represent just 11% of the population, but over 40% of violent crimes committed in this country. In South Africa, white South Africans are being targeted because they're white. And it's picking up pace. The government denies it, ignores it, and takes no action to protect South Africans. Governments are illegitimate when they don't fulfill their primary purpose, which is to protect society. That's the purpose of polities coming together and forming governments to protect our common interest, such as security, domestic and national security. When a government fails to take heed of threats to its citizens, it ceases to be legitimate. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a house robbery. It was never a house robbery. It's a cover-up by law enforcement to cook the stats, to deny that white South Africans are the targets of violent attacks. Because they are. They are. The proof is there. The evidence is everywhere. The savage beatings, the rapes, the murders, beheadings, the dismemberments. the torture. For what? To what end? Racial hatred stoked by politicians like Julius Malema and the EFF and members of the ANC. To what end? You are sick people, twisted people, and you bring shame to all black South Africans, your actions. The world must know. How is this tolerated? How do white, rich, connected farmers and elites deny that this is happening? You think people won't come for you eventually? They will. Remember the instance of Nazi Germany. No one came for the communist. No one came for the socialist. No one came for the Jews. No one came for the aristocracy. No one came for the Catholics. No one came for the Sinti, the Roma. When they came for me, there was no one left to protect me. Thoughts and prayers to the family of my friend in a horrific situation that's wholly unnecessary and is permitted because of government inaction. President Trump, if you're hearing this, it's time to step up. Politely, diplomatically, quietly, ask the South African government why they lie about these statistics, why they hide them, and why President Ramaphosa goes around and mocks you and laughs about the Oval Office and dim the lights. It's beyond reprehensible. Murdering people because of their skin color, and then lying about it and covering it up so you can kill more people. The government of national unity has done nothing to improve the situation in South Africa. The plight of South Africa's ethnic minorities, its racial minorities, continues unabated. The plundering of South Africa's resources by corrupt politicians continues unabated. Every day we see new cases reported in the media of corrupt officials, in the ANC primarily, who are indicted or charged or convicted of their crimes. And the world sits by silently. Europe, complicit, as they give their countries away. Again, thoughts and prayers to the family. It's my sad news to bring this to you. God bless.